Good afternoon. It is still Women Radio, WFM 91.7. I hope your day is going on well. If not, it is just noon, and trust me, you still have time on your hand to just stop, pause a little bit and see where exactly you might have missed it, or maybe something just went wrong, and put yourself together and you will be just fine. Yes, it's another Monday, so we're just trying to understand what this week is going to bring, but all the same, I just hope you stay good and keep a positive outlook. It is 5 minutes past 12 and you're welcome on The Big Question on Women Radio 91.7. On The Big Question, we get to discuss issues affecting us as a nation and as citizens, and we get to profile solution. Today's issue, we're looking at 2023 polls decline in women representation in Parliament. My name is Esther Alaribi, and joining me in this conversation, we're going to be having Buki Shonibare, Executive Director, Invictus Africa. Good afternoon, Buki. How are you doing? Please do unmute your mic.
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. Yes, I can hear you clearly. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, good. Yes, so we have Buki Shonibare, who is going to be talking to us this afternoon on the decline of women representation in Parliament. So yes, different organizations, civil society organizations, having to put so much effort into ensuring that the number of women in the Nigerian political space increases. But yet we've not seen a lot of changes. From 1999 till date, only 157 women have been elected into the 469-member National Assembly as compared to the men. The men have it better, but when we look at the numbers on the side of the women, it is falling day in, day out. And just recently, the elections of the February 25 Presidential and National Assembly elections further showed that even though we've put in so much effort into ensuring that we increase the number of women in politics, not a lot has been achieved. Now look at this. Out of the 92 women who contested for the Senate in the February elections, only 3 won. And out of the 286 who contested for the House of Representatives seats, only 15 so far have been declared winners. And this is a cause for concern, because we're having to ask. Now, at some point, I just want to stop and look at funders, donor agencies, NGOs, civil society organizations who put in so much work, who do a lot of grassroots work to ensure that women representation in governance is improved. And this is what we get after the elections. There's so much to talk about here, because you're wondering what exactly is going on. I recall having a conversation with somebody sometime last week, Buki, and this person was saying that sometimes these issues are issues that happen within the party. Yes, that one is there also. We get to talk about the need for more women to join politics, but when the environment is not friendly, is not conducive, there is this air around, oh, you should not be here already. It's already a challenge, Buki. What are your thoughts on these recent elections and how women fared?
Thank you, Esther. You've been able to lay the background really succinctly, and that is looking at the fact that when we look at the numbers tell us something completely different. I mean, on the one hand, we have all of these conversations around women representation. Just look at the last 5-10 years in Nigeria. There's been a whole lot of talk around women generally, and then you can begin to unbox that and look at women, whether gender-based violence, women representation, women in the economy, women and health, and you look at all of these issues. And one would think that with these increased conversations around women and a lot of the money that is being put into it, we will begin to see the numbers change. Just a few minutes ago, my organization, Invictus Africa, we released the trend analysis from 1999 till date. And that will tell you what it has been like. And we can begin to talk about the numbers later. But one thing I can tell you is when I looked at the numbers, when these results came out, and I look at the number of women representation, I just wonder, what the problem is. And there was something you said in your opening remarks, that, international community, donor agencies, what are they doing? I think that it is important for us to note that it is still the primary responsibility of Nigeria as a state to ensure that the principles of equality, the principle of equal representation is actually, fostered within our Nigerian system. What the international community or donor agencies can do at their best is just to support that. And in international law, we usually talk about this principle of non-interference. So even when you look at the money that is coming in from donor agencies, from philanthropies, from organizations that are funding elections or women representation in Nigeria, there's only an extent to which such monies can be used. You can't, for instance, such monies cannot be used to field, a woman, because that will amount to interfering, in the territorial integrity or in the internal affairs of Nigeria as a sovereign state. My last thought on this, before we move on to the next question, will be the fact that we must begin to detangle what the problem is. One thing is clear. The strategy that we have used so far has not worked. It has not produced the kind of results that we see. If you look at the trend analysis that we just released, you will notice that in 2023, we currently have 2.8% women representation. The last time we had that figure was in 1999. Things peaked in 2007 when we had 8.3% women representation. But after that, there was a 4.6% decline, such that in 2003, we then had 3.7%. Now, imagine in 2023, despite all the talk, all the money, all the actions, all the work, we are still talking about the same figure what we had in 1999. It just tells you that, and that's just for the Senate. For the House of Reps, for instance, we currently, the list we had was in 1999 at 3.3. And guess what? Currently, what we had was just 4.1%. That is, if after the supplementary elections are conducted, and I'm hoping that out of the 8 women that are candidates in the supplementary elections, I'm hoping that we have more women win, and we can have an increase from this current 4.1% that we have to something better. Over to you, Esther.
All right. Thank you so much, Buki. Like, listening to this data, all of these figures, yes, one can tell that there's been a decline. But what exactly, Buki, in your work that you get to do at your organization, engaging other organizations and even engaging this female candidate and women in politics, what is one thing that strikes you that you see seems like this is the problem? Because you talk to different women, they are willing, but it seems as though there is no space, as if some people just assume that women should not have a say there. Most times, the conversation when it comes to election, what I've seen in recent times in this election is the fact that people don't even make it a conversation of, is a woman running for that office? The woman, we are more focused about, oh, okay, yes, this man has been here for so long and all. And it is always never a conversation to say, oh, this woman would deliver better than a man when she's up against a man. And it is a worry.
I completely agree with you, Esther. It is a serious cause for concern. And even though we think that, more women are coming out, we actually had fewer women came out this period. And I'm going to talk about what I think the problem is. And just to quickly correct the fact that we have not been engaging with female candidates. Organizations like Women in Politics Forum, organizations like Womanifesto, being led by Dr. Abiola Akyode, and there are several organizations, that are directly that are directly working with women. What we have been doing is to bridge the data gap, to release this data and make sure that we can have a data driven or evidence driven, advocacy in support. But let me even reel this out, Esther. In the 2019 elections, we had 73 candidates altogether for the presidency, and out of that figure, we actually had 6 women who contested. In this 2023 election, we had 18 candidates, and we only had 1 woman contested for the presidency. And then when you look at all the other positions, this year, for instance, this 2023 elections, we didn't have any female vice presidential candidate. Out of the 18 vice presidential candidates, before, it was the cool thing to do, to have a woman, as a vice presidential candidate. And you look at it for all the other positions, governor, deputy governor, and how we see that continuous decline. From where I'm sitting, and from some of the work that we have done, reading about this and studying and engaging with some of these organizations that are working, I think that if we look at the problem from one angle, we will be missing the point. First is that there are deeply rooted causes, and when I say causes, I mean CAUSES, that are impeding women's ability to participate meaningfully within our system. Now, in law, we usually say that you can't place something on nothing and expect it to stand. This is something that I usually say every time I have this conversation. In what sort of environment, social environment, cultural environment, political environment, legal environment, policy environment, do we expect women to thrive politically? Nigeria is a deeply patriarchal society, such that you can't place the expectation of increased women participation within a deeply patriarchal society like Nigeria and expect it to stand. There are social factors that affect women. Socially, there are still people today who still believe that women should not be leaders. I mean, just look at some of the events that we have seen in the National Assembly. A few years ago, Honorable Kazari came with all of his 5 wives to the National Assembly to prove that women are only supposed to be cooking for him at home. That is a member of the National Assembly. That tells you that we only produce our kind when they get into political offices. And these are the same people that we expect to be able to advance the cause of women. So within the society as a whole, we still live within this society that believes women should not advance. There are religious factors that stand against women, whether church, mosque, traditional factors. There are still places where they believe that. There are still churches in Nigeria today who still believe that women should not mount the pulpit. Now, if we must not mistake the fact and say that, Nigeria we are not a religion-based country. We are a religious organization, a religious entity. And that tells you that religion is a major factor that informs what we see in the society. What we see in the society informs what happens within every leadership sphere, whether political leadership, economic leadership, academic leadership, any form of sphere that you will find that men and women will contest for leadership. There are religious factors that intersect with the social factors that affect women representation. There are cultural factors as well. There are legal factors as well. Countries that have advanced, Esther, in terms of women representation, and can begin to look at some of these countries like we will always talk about Rwanda. Rwanda is usually our first point of contact.
Yes.
We'll talk about Rwanda, we'll talk about Senegal, we'll talk about Mozambique, we'll talk about South Africa, Burundi, Namibia. Namibia has the 50-50 policy, the zebra policy. That policy mandates the political party, the ruling political party, to make sure that every position is equally distributed by gender. So when you look at the Interparliamentarian Union of ranking of countries, Rwanda is usually number 1. But we usually argue that Rwanda is number 1 in women representation because a lot of their men were killed during the genocide. No. While that is a factor, there is also the deliberateness in constitutionalizing women representation. South Africa put it in their constitution to make sure that women are represented. Rwanda have also done the same, not just in the constitution, every legislation that they can find, so long as there will be contestation for positions, they make sure that they... So when you look at what happened last year, March 1 in Nigeria,
yes,
the National Assembly members threw out 5 gender bills. Those are basic bills that you will look at and then you will tell yourself, bills around reserved seat, citizenship, affirmative action, ministerial or commissioner nomination, indigenship. Just basic issues affecting women like indigenship. They still threw it out. How much more when we talk about leadership? So just to say, Esther,
yes,
that there are social factors, social-religious factors, there are socio-cultural factors, there are socio-legal factors that impact on women not being able to advance. And I'll close my thoughts by saying that not only that countries that are advancing in women representation, not only are they legalizing that as a policy, they are also making sure that they advance it to the level of the Constitution. Once you constitutionalize something, what you are demonstrating is to say to every citizen of Nigeria, as well as everyone across the world, that we take this issue so importantly that we are putting it in our apex law. Nigeria have not done the same. Countries that are advancing are doing the same. That is one thing that we must copy from them. Over to you, Esther.
All right. Thank you so much, Buki. I could listen to you all day. So, this area where you're having to talk about our constitution, do you think it is time where, looking at all of the efforts that has been put in to ensure that we get more women in decision-making positions, do you think we've gotten to that point where we need to start calling for some kind of amendment to the 1999 Constitution as amendment to enshrine this in the Constitution, that certain quota be given to women? Because yes, we have the 35% affirmative action for women, but how many of this have we seen, even in elective and appointive position, and we're still having to go on talking about the basics still?
Thank you, Esther. That's a very important question. I will start by saying that, yes, we have gotten to that stage. And that is because almost every society across the world is patriarchal. That tells you that in every average society, men will usually have the upper hand. And this is not the time to debate whether, but you women are always, we know what is happening, right? Now, when you use quota system, and which many people kick against, and I dare say that I am one of the people that advocates for quota system.
Okay.
When you use quota system such as reserved seats, such kind of quota system, according to the UN that pushed for this, such kind of quota system is supposed to be a temporary measure. And by temporary measure, what that is saying is that it should be something that is only within a particular period of time until balance is achieved. In Nigeria, so back to that question that you asked is, should we begin to review our constitution so that, yes, Esther, there has been efforts to review the Constitution so that we can constitutionalize women representation in our political space. That is one of the bills that was thrown out last year. You remember that 5 gender bills were actually proposed among, the 68 amendments to the 1999 Constitution as amended. Out of those 68 proposed amendment bills, there were 5 that were for women. Out of that, there were 2 that relate to women representation. One was the reserved seat bill. The reserved seat bill sought to amend sections 48, 49, and 91 of our Constitution so that it can create additional 37 seats at the Senate, additional 74 seats at the Senate, additional 108 seats in all of the state houses of assembly.
Okay.
The many people that kicked against it on the basis of the fact that, we have a legislature that is already very expensive. If you add this to it, it is just going to increase the amount of money that we are going to be spending. The good thing is organizations like PLAC did an analysis of what it would actually cost if we add this number of people to our National Assembly. And guess what? It was really minute. It wasn't up to 10%. If we decide that this is an important issue for us, then we will cut down the budget, the spending of the National Assembly to accommodate this. Because it is not much. Guess what? The Senate, 30 members of the Senate voted yes, 58 members of the Senate voted no. At this House of Assembly, 81 voted yes, 208 voted no. That bill was thrown out. The second one was the affirmative action bill. And don't forget that we've been clamoring for 35% affirmative action.
Yes.
There are countries that are clamoring for 50% affirmative action. I would clamor for a 50%, because if we say that the population of women in Nigeria is about 49 point something percent, let's say 50%. Why are we not having that equal proportional representation? The affirmative action bill was one of the bills that was supposed to be used to amend our constitution. That bill sought to amend section 223 of our constitution, so that to ensure that women occupy at least 35% in political party administration, that is at political party level, and appointive positions across federal and state level. Permit me to let you know what has happened in terms of our appointive position, because a lot of times we focus on the elective positions
alone. Yeah.
In the appointive positions, in 2019, 46 men were appointed, only 8 women were appointed. So out of that is about 54 positions, only 8, that's 17%, were appointed. And we have data to show from 1999 to 2019 in terms of appointive positions. But what am I saying regarding the affirmative action bill? The affirmative action bill was also thrown out, yet it was only supposed to guarantee 35% of women representation in the political party administration. You know what that means? That means that whether at APC, PDP, LP, MNPP, whatever political party, make sure that within your internal political party system, we have 35% women. It was thrown out. That is to tell you that if at the political party level, they are not willing to accommodate women representation up to 35%, what do we expect to see within the national space? One last one before I hand over to you. Okay. There was another bill out of the 5 gender bills. That was the bill to ensure that when they are nominating for ministerial or commissioner positions, that certain percentage should be reserved for women. It sought to amend sections 147 and 192 of the Constitution so that we can have a minimum of 20% House of Reps or 10% at Senate. Now, what that means is, at the House of Reps, they voted that they only can support 20% of women who should be nominated for ministers or commissioners at the state level. The Senate said no, they can only support 10%. Both of them voted on these bills. Guess what? At the Senate, 44 voted yes, 43 voted no, 1 abstained. At the ministerial level, at the House of Representative level, the 5 voted against it. Honorable Gbajabiamila Miller brought it up again and they did a voice vote. When they did a voice vote, the ayes have it. But because there was no simultaneous yes voting, that was also thrown out. So 3 bills that would have guaranteed increased women representation: the reserve seat bill, the affirmative action bill, the nomination of ministers or commissioners bill. 3 of them were thrown out. Those were the bills that would have used to amend our constitution to demonstrate that indeed we are serious about women representation. It failed. Over to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Buki. I'm glad that you're having to give us data on all of this, so we actually see a clear picture as to what is needed to be done. Thank you so much, Buki. 28 minutes past 12 on your Women Radio, WFM 91.7, and this is The Big Question. The Big Question is where we discuss issues affecting us as a nation and as citizens, and we get to profile solutions. Today on The Big Question, we're looking at 2023 polls, decline in women representation in Parliament. And my guest today, I'm speaking to Buki Shonibare, Executive Director of Invectus Africa. And yes, we're having to have this conversation because it is one that is important. Elections after elections, we get to see this decline, and we'll just talk about it and move on. But we need more intentionality behind it to ensure that the number of women in the Nigerian political space increases. You can listen live at the website www.wfm917.com. Download the mobile app to listen live, WFM 917. Buki, so in recent times, different organizations are already having conversations around what we expect, what women expect from the incoming administration. Women representation, what it's going to be like. So in your own opinion, what do you think it should be like, talking about appointive positions? Because yes, women has had to face and deal with a lot of marginalization, but we're hoping that in this incoming administration, looking at all of the efforts of women, look at the protests last year, March last year was Women's Month. Yes, that was when the gender bills were thrown out. Women had to go protesting. We're hoping that this year is going to be better for women in this regard.
Thank you. Which is why I really appreciate what organizations like Women Radio is doing, and what Anti-Tones Shonaya is doing, and a lot of other organizations, to advance this conversation. In terms of women representation, I mean, one of the things that we started having to do in our organization is to start collecting the kind of data that we need that will ensure that we are able to achieve, gender equality. And one of such is what we call Womanity Index. Womanity Index, the first report will be released in August of this year for Nigeria. It's being supported by Ford Foundation, and we're doing this in partnership with Budget Foundation. Okay. And basically just simply to release information and data most importantly, on different metrics that relate to issues around, gender-based violence, and gender equality generally. Now, why did I bring that in? I brought that in because it is one thing for us to talk about the things that we expect that the government should do, and I will talk about that. It is another thing for us to make sure that we have accountability metrics and mechanisms in place to be able to track the implementation of those things, so that we can begin to see indeed, results in terms of gender equality and women representation, which is the focus of our conversation. So in terms of specifically what I expect that that the government should do, the governments at both the federal level and the state level. Again, let's not forget that there is a state level aspect to this, which is why we release data such as what we have for the state houses of assembly. And we are currently, collecting data in terms of specific women representation in each state, so that we can also go to each state. Now, one thing that we expect to see from the president-elect and from the governors-elect that will be elected on Saturday is a deliberateness in terms of increased women representation. For elective position is literally done. 3 women out of 109 in the Senate, and currently we only have 15 out of 360 at the House of Representatives. The only other option now that we have to bridge that gap in terms of women's political leadership representation will be in appointive positions. So we are open, and that's one thing that we are going to track and report on, to say that we expect that there should be increase in the appointment of women at the federal level, that is by the president-elect, as well as at the state level. So what we need to do, and what we are currently doing, is to ask ourselves, what is the total number of vacant positions for appointed positions? So let's say we have 46. If we use the 35% affirmative action, or let's say we even use 50% affirmative action style, that means that we are expecting to see at least 23 women represented. But if we don't have 23 women appointed, even if we go for the 35% approach, that means we're expecting at least 16 women should be appointed. That is using a 46 number appointive vacant positions. For me, or for us at Invictus Africa and all other partners that we work with, that is one thing that we expect to say that there should be increase in terms of women appointment in Nigeria. Now, beyond that, is then other issues that address these root and proximate causes or factors that I mentioned earlier. Issues around social, religious norms, cultural norms, legal policy. It is one thing. So I have in front of me the renewed hope brochure of the president-elect. And if you go through that document, you will notice that on pages 60 and 61, there is the commitment of the president-elect to women empowerment. You know, things around economic empowerment for women, social inclusion and empowerment for women, fighting domestic violence and abuse, helping the most disadvantaged, educational parity, you know, things like that. Are those other proximate factors that will eventually translate into increase women participation? Because if a woman is poor, just giving an example, how is she expected to compete in this our very expensive electoral process or very expensive electoral approach? You know, so it means that if women are economically empowered, then we know that they have the wherewithal to be able to compete favorably within the economic space. So it is not just to appoint women or elect women. We must also look at other issues that will make sure that women are empowered enough to be able to advance and compete favorably. One last example, educational parity that the president-elect advanced in his manifesto. So if we have more girls that are educated, it means we have higher chances of more educated women who will eventually go into politics and be able to perform well. So for us, those are some of the things that we are looking at.
All right. Thank you so much, Buki. You've been able to give us a background and way forward as well. So yes, so much. This conversations like this do not end here. We'll keep having these conversations. We'll keep talking about it. So yes, we know already what women should expect, and come March 18, we have 24 female governorship candidates, and we're hoping that these women across these different states, that we get to see a difference in elective positions this time around. Thank you so much, Buki, for being on the show this afternoon.
Thank you so much, Esther, and well done for all you do and for what everyone does at Women FM.
Thank you so much, Buki. Thank you. All right. Yes, and that was my guest, Buki Shonibare, Executive Director of Invictus Africa. And yes, you've heard from her directly. There is a whole lot to be done to ensure that women representation in politics is increased. Remember, as you go to the polls on Saturday, March 18, in the different states, in the 28 states where we're going to be having these elections, vote for a woman. Look around, check for what these women have done over time. Be sure that this person is able to deliver, and vote for them. The number of women we have in politics is not encouraging at all, and we keep seeing a decline. There is a need to ensure that we have both gender on the decision-making tables, because there are some issues that will not be addressed until we have a woman on that table. I recall a lady who gave an instance of how her father would just send her to school and just give her the basics, and he never used to include the cost for her sanitary towels there, until at some point, I don't know, she didn't tell the story of what happened to her mother then until her father got married. Then her stepmother was the one that had to tell the father about the need to include the extra cost for her sanitary towels. So you can imagine how this kind of things happen. So yes, we need women at decision-making tables to be able to make critical decisions in this line to favor and benefit everybody. My name is Esther Alaribi, and this has been The Big Question. Do well to join us again tomorrow at 12:05. Thanks to Rita Igwe for the support, and thank you to the executive producer.
WFM 91.7.